Randall Race Richards is a Marine Program Tribal Resource Technician with the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation, Smith River, California. And Race is a Tolowa Dee-ni tribal member who was born and raised in Tolowa Dee-ni Aboriginal territory his whole life. He has always had interest in protecting and preserving natural resources for future generations to come. A big part of his interest was being able to enjoy these resources as a kid, and learning the difference of them not being around put it into perspective. Currently enrolled in the College of the Redwoods alongside working in natural resources to be able to further his education and qualifications to protect and steward the area resources. All of the work done at Natural Resources is all to help the community and our environment, so he could not be more proud to work with this amazing team. His co-presenter is Rudy Lopez, who's a tribal resource specialist, Nethingne with the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation. He's a Tolowa tribal member with a passion for his community, culture, and indigenous land that his people reside on. He is working towards his goals of impacting his community in a way that preserves and protects the traditions, the land and water that sustain them, and all the living things that we walk side by side with. Rudy is from a large family and a father of 4 young Tolowas. He hopes to help change the approach of resource management with a mixture of cultural and scientific techniques that empower others to see the connection we all have with our environment, to live with the earth, not just on it. I love that. All right, guys, welcome and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm very excited to share with you guys about the work we've been doing as a tribe. This is my partner, Race, right here. Hello. Yeah, so could waste any more time, we'll get started. So the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation, first stewards, we're the first stewards of the land right here, and so we try to keep that in our hearts and try to keep that with us every step we take along the process. This is a map of our ancestral territory. We're a federally recognized tribe with over 1,700 enrolled citizens. Now we're a California tribe, but the majority of our ancestral territory is actually in Oregon. But today we only have this little red dot, about 700 acres south of the border is all we have left of our ancestral territory. We're a coastal tribe, so we rely heavily on the subsistence from all the available marine resources. So we take it very seriously. So there's a network of MPAs in California, starting with the ones in SoCal, NorCal implemented in 2012, with a huge tribal influence in how these got implemented. Tribes were not giving up their rights to harvest because of this. So for the first time, the state recognized tribal take, and all the MPAs in Northern California have tribal exemptions for local tribes. There's 5 MPAs in Del Mar County, and all of them have tribal exemptions. I was brought on to the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation to build capacity and engage in scientific monitoring happening in our backyard. As a part of a 3-part baseline, in order to keep funding for our program, we established what the tribe's keystone species are going to be. And these were taken from a list created by the SAT and the MPA process determined to benefit from the MPAs. So every species is important, but we had to narrow it down and start with a small subset to study and then expand our species. Rigorous surveys and interviews and presentations went into determining our 6 keystone species and traditional landscape approach. Now here's a list of our key species, and we'll get into that further on in the presentation. So with our shared stewardship, we've created a harvest title and the Nethingne Stewards, along with the Tribal Marine Steward Network. So it took about 6 years to create our harvest title, the first for the nation and first of its kind in the United States, with a unique cultural approach based on traditional knowledge, research, made to promote traditional stewardship practices, culturally driven community and interdepartmental collaborative efforts through our department with natural resources, GIS, culture, language, TIPO, courts, law enforcement, and co-management council with the state. Now, lots of research with ethnographic interviews, historical research, traditional knowledge database, and committees hired an environmental lawyer who has worked solely on Native American issues for over 20 years. Harvesting Commission, restorative justice, and traditional values. Starting with the small Keystone Species, was reserved for expansion into other harvesting areas. All monitoring will inform the take recommendations for the tidal. So the harvest tidal challenges we came across would be like reteaching traditional ways. A lot of people have westernized ways of harvesting and taking, so we're trying to reteach cultural techniques and trying to make that more of a predominance in take. And with the acceptance of different ideas in our community, we're having a hard time getting that to come back and getting people to respect and value the resources we have here. We created a harvest committee. We call it the Che Inch, and it's brought us a long way, being able to have the conversations and being able to move forward with the ideas we have to full implementation. And with the new Nesh Ine, we were able to enforce and kind of teach people the right way to go about this process. So it's not a crime or breaking the law more than a lack of knowledge and understanding of what we're doing. We're trying to come at it with the approach to teach instead of punish. So Nasriyet Shirdan in our language means shared stewardship or joint responsibility. So we've built a traditional database, and the purpose of the database is for a tool for the natural resources as we work towards our mission of protecting resources with a quick, accessible, and a controlled environment for information coming out to provide traditional knowledge for the citizens. And in there is traditional knowledge with over 22 interviews of elders and tribal members that have traditional knowledge that if we didn't record, we would lose that with future generations. All the monitoring data we have of our Keystone Species and all the information we find, we hold in the database. And so any tribal member that wants to learn, we have access to anytime he needs to. I got there. So going to our 6 Keystone Species, we'll go through them, and the slumps, and these are all in our language, and we have them in English too. So the slumps is our surf smelt. The Chuwi is our night smelt. The Met is our razor clams. The Slat is the mussels. The Lat is our seaweed. And Chi Lat Shriek is our surf perch. Every species is important, but we had to narrow it down and start with a small subset to study and then expand our species. Now the slumps is a culturally important, and it's usually caught with annual fish camps that used to run with all our families from the tribe. Used to have camps down the beach, and we would live there all summer, and we would collect this fish to bring back so that we had food for the winter time. But a decline in the runs on all of our traditional beaches have made it hard to be even able to catch these fishes, let alone even catch a run. And so that's part of what we're doing right now, is trying to find out why they haven't come back through a series of habitat assessments, trying to find using eDNA samples to try to find the presence or lack of presence in their eggs. But as far as we've done, every year it's gone down further and further, and soon we're expecting that we're not going to have any smell at all. And so that's what we're trying to bring back in some way, through prayer or ceremony or scientific research, is some way to be able to bring our smell back to us. And here's a picture of a tribal member right here, and it's the handmade net. And we just go out into the waves and the surf. When they come in to spawn, we dip our net in there, and you can see them down here. Oh. right there, right here. Here's a picture of our traditional net. Excuse me, sorry for that mistake. And so basically, this is a handmade dip net that we've made from driftwood on the beach, and we collect them. And then after we fish for them, this is what they look like as we're drying on the beach. Now, it takes a lot of work to do this. Now, all this grass laid down is actually an invasive species of European beach grass. So we've just used that to our advantage to be able to make beds along the sand right here. And as you can see, it takes a lot of people. Usually the men fish and the women will have to turn the fish every few hours and keep the seagulls away. And they're just trying to maintain up towards the top. This is what they look like when they're all dried. And so it takes a process of a few weeks to get this. So it takes a lot of people and a lot of time and a lot of cultural knowledge to be able to get to this point. And since this is a traditional activity, a lot of people don't do this anymore. So this kind of cultural and ancestral and resource isn't as widely known as it used to be. So we're trying to bring that back. And this is us going through and doing the habitat assessment for the flunk. We got 2 beaches, and basically we run the beach and we use GPS to like find all the spawning areas and then try to come back and see if there's any hint of eggs or any kind of possibility that they could be there or coming back. And the Chuwi is a species of smelt that runs at night. We call them night fish. And they're usually caught at a fish camp, but lately we've been having to go out about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning on different beaches and just try to find them. And the difference about these is they're a little smaller, but they glisten about like almost a gold. And so when they come out in the middle of the night, you can't really see them with your flashlight. So you have to go in kind of a pitch black, nothing but moonlight type setting, and you will just see a bunch of glitter, like purplish gold glitter coming out, and it's actually an amazing sight. So it's part of our MPA Baseline project, and some are caught during the projects of our Yanaset and Datnaset, and that basically means north and south of our main river, which is our two main beaches. And we partnered with Humboldt State University this year, and we had different people from different tribes and the university doing different beaches to try to collect data on these to try to find out why they're more healthy than they smelt, but also in a decline of population. And this is us at night going out there, and you can see they're a little smaller, but we seem to catch a lot more of them. Personally, I like the way they taste better, but you know, that's just a preference, I guess. And the schlap is the mussels, and this is one of the important ones because this is one of the ones that people eat a lot more, and they're much more abundant. And so we've been doing sampling, like biotoxic sampling and paralytic shellfish poisoning and domoic acid, and important substance resource. We partnered with the CDHP since 2013 and the MPA, which is the razor clam fishery. And this is us going out and we make sure that we only take a few from each rock. So we're not going out and we're taking everything off of one. We pick a few, and traditional knowledge tells us that we only pick the mussels from the ocean side that the sun isn't soaking on or setting on all day. So there are certain rules that we have in our own traditions to make sure that we have sustainable harvesting. And part of that is not taking all the mussels from one rock, but rather a few from each one and moving on. And in our culture, we don't take any of the biggest things. We don't take the biggest elk. We don't take the biggest fish. Those are like, they've had to struggle to get that far, and we respect that and we value that. So we leave the big ones there to spread their genes on so that there can be more big ones of whatever species that is. And we respect that, we honor that, and we'll take the ones and only what we need. And the lot is our seaweed, and this is a huge traditional food for us, and we can only harvest it around spring. And there's a flower, it's the red currant actually, and when that flower blooms on land or in the mountains, that tells our people that we're able to go down to the beach and collect seaweed. So there's certain things that our environment tells us when it's time to do something. So when the seaweed is ready to harvest, it also tells us that the eels are running upriver. So there's a certain process that we use to make sure that it's time and ready, so we're not harvesting at the wrong time, we're not taking too many. Now they're dried into patties, and it takes about 3 weeks for them to dry, but then they're able to last all winter, so you have sustenance, especially during the old times when you didn't have grocery stores. So this is an important species for us. And we go out and we GPS and monitor the places where they grow the best, and then we'll come back the next year to make sure that they're either healthier, or we'll know if they're not healthier. And it seemed like last year, all the spots that were healthy the first year, they weren't as healthy. So I'm not sure if it's going to rise or decline, but we have noticed a difference in the same spots in 2 years. And this is some of our tribal members going out, and basically we never like pick it off the rocks. We cut it at the roots so that the stalk can actually grow back, and then we rinse it in actual salt water, because some of the salt is the nutrients and we don't want to wash that off with fresh water. So we wash it off in the tide pools, and then we dry it that way, so that it keeps that salt and all the nutrients from the ocean, and it keeps dried. It dries a lot better that way too. And this is after we put it in patties, and it's got to be in an open, dry area. So it sits here for about 3 weeks, and every couple of days you have to turn it. And after a while, I'm not sure if you guys ever ate dried seaweed off the beach, but it's pretty good. It's really salty, but it's pretty good. And this is us going through and taking GPSs of less abundant areas to try to determine if they're going to be the same way next year, or maybe they won't be there at all. But we have noticed a lot, especially on our intertidal, a lot of changes. Last year we had a huge mussel die off, and for a certain spot on the beach about 1,000 yards, almost every Pacific mussel, California mussel died, but the blue mussels, on the tiny little blue mussels, they were still alive. And so we're trying to figure out what the reason for that would be. But the next year they came back and they were all here. So there's a lot of changes going on that we can't actually put our finger on, and that's what we're working on right now. The Chi shriek is our surf perch, and they're caught year round, but we avoid the pregnant season, which is about late April to late May. And after then, we do a population survey every month, and we go out and see the type of the species of perch, the sex of the perch, and then we monitor them to make sure that when we do our harvest title, that we're giving them enough time to spawn and to come back. So we're not over harvesting, and we're not taking more than the ocean can give us, basically. And this is a picture of us and our supervisor, Rosa. She's out here and she does a lot of great work for us, and we just run our beaches and we keep our land protected, and it's a great thing. We're very proud of it.
And so moving into the intertidal / beach monitoring, we work with LATNA, which is sea stars, to watch their health and abundance. So we'll go out and make sure they don't have any sea star wasting disease, and count how many there are, their size, and take a few different aspects of that. And we have certain spots we do it at, so I'll go back to those spots consistently to keep the data straight. And then we do tribal intertidal digital ecological surveys, short for tides, which are 3D tidal imagings of specific tide spots. We do them multiple years, so that we can go back, and it's just like kind of Google Maps. You can go into a 3D figure and see everything in there. And so us will go through and try to mark down all the species that exist within a certain parameter, so that we can have an idea of it, and then take it again next year and see how the species change and how the sand buildup changed, all kinds of stuff. It's really amazing. And then the MPA watch, we have, I think, 5 MPAs, and 2 of them are what actually on the shore. or one of them is on the shore. And so if we had a boat, we would love to do MPA watches out there, but for now we do them off the coast. And that's basically just patrolling the beaches, making sure to try to do enforcement activities for anyone harvesting or fishing or anything that they're not supposed to do within the MPA, and mainly educate them. We carry flyers for the MPA, and it's not very posted out here, so we just mainly try to educate people on where they're at and redirect them. And the MPA Baseline project and sea star wasting disease, TDN monitoring continues, and it's overall just habitat health and trying to keep an idea on our tide pools that we're very interested in and everything that has to go into them. And these are just pictures of us doing our LOTNA surveys. And so as you can see on that right one, he's not doing very good. He's got the sea star wasting disease. There's another one next to him with lesions all over him. And so this is what we look out for, and just try to make sure that they're doing okay out there, because they're a pretty important part of our habitats out here. And then with the intertidal beach monitoring with tides, as I was speaking about earlier, it's a combination with traditional knowledge to improve conservation for our shorelines in the face of a changing climate. Thousands of photos stitched together to create 3D models relatively and inexpensively are very easily transferable methods that create a moment in time you can revisit again and again. And then when you use the same areas re-imaged multiple years, we can begin to see how organisms move and adapt to changing pressures, therefore to be mindful of how our impacts and our subsistence practices. This is one of the 3D models from the top view, and this is a pretty decent area. And as you can see how rocky it is, sometimes it can be some hard work to get the camera to take all the pictures of every single spot. These are some of our coworkers working on it, and we use this really long pole, and the meters are 5 meters by 30 meters. And then we use this really long pole to stretch that 5 meter width and go all the way down it and take a bunch of pictures, having the camera roll down the reel and back, and make sure to get a lot of overlap, as that's how the algorithm actually stitches the whole thing together. We are a foundational partner of the Tides project and currently using the new technology. But yeah, the Tides work is definitely a really important part of a lot of what we do to just get an idea of what species are in the area. And it's a really cool way to educate people, to be able to show them the picture and show them the species and tell them what's where. And then, it helps inform our harvesting practices, because we try to make sure to let everyone know what our situations are at for whether or not the mussels and stuff are healthy with their domoic acid, or just whether or not it's a okay time to go get something. And MPA watches, human use surveys. So whether they're there for recreational use, just walking the beach, or they're harvesting things, or even if they are walking their dogs or anything like that, we try to record everything we can just to have information about how the MPAs are being used. And if you want to look at some of that, it's on mpawatch.org. They have a bunch of information on all the MPAs all around. And the shared joint stewardship. And that's what we try to do for our environment and for our community, for the entire community out here as shared and joint stewardship. We try to work our best with state and local agencies to do whatever we can, work a lot with Humboldt to be able to partner with them. That's how we do our night smelt fishing and LOTNA and a couple other things. And so it's definitely very important for the joint stewardship. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and contact me or Rudy, and our emails are right there at rudylopez@Tolowa and richards@tolowa.com. Shoot Shanila means thank you in our language.
Thank you so much, Race and Rudy. You guys can go ahead and give back the share. And Kara, can you wrangle any questions we have?
Yeah, I'm looking. I see. I would love to hear more about balancing traditional ways while utilizing modern technology. So definitely someone very interested in learning more. So they can reach out to you about that. I want to say I'm seeing so many thank yous. We know that this takes a lot of trust to share your work here, and we're really, really honored and grateful that you're willing to share some of what you do. And I'm feeling very honored to have gotten to see what you do and your dedication and the intersection of your traditional family practices along with the science and your partnerships with Humboldt and Scripps. That's really, really neat. I put in the comments just what a great model. I've reached out to some of my tribal representatives here, and I don't think they were able to make it today because they're at work, but we'll definitely share the video with them because I think it's such a great model for what could be done all up and down the coast to protect these special resources for the tribes and everyone.
Definitely.
If
I
you guys
totally agree.
Can you guys open up and see the chat box just so that you
Yeah.
can see all the thank yous that are coming in?
Tons of thank yous.
And thanks everyone for listening and saying thank you to all of us and talking in the chat. Good participation.
Yeah, definitely.